Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm so excited because today I get to share another awesome conversation with you, and this is with someone that is so fun, and you probably know who it is. Bob Goff is a New York Times bestselling author, speaker, and encourager. He's also just a really funny and really fun guy. I'm so glad that I get to call him a friend. And by the way, he will be speaking at our Business Boutique conference coming up in a couple months. Check out my conversation with Bob. Bob, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for having me, Christy.
I'm so excited about this. I have been a fan of yours for a long time, not just from your book, from reading Love Does, and then even back in the Young Life days. You're a Young Life guy, and that's how I met Jesus, and I've been a volunteer for years, and I'm highly connected to Young Life, so I just feel like we are kindred spirits.
Oh, that made you a hero status a long time ago. But I just like the people with Young Life, and they don't have a corner on it, but they're sure good at plugging into people and just loving them without an agenda. And that's when you know it's love, when there's no agenda. Otherwise, it's a program, and we don't need another program.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. Well, for anyone watching or listening that may not be familiar with what you do and who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm married to Sweet Maria Goff, and I have 3 awesome kids. That's all you need to know about me.
That's the important stuff, right? The good stuff.
Yeah, I just nailed it. Everything else is just the crumbs. Recovering lawyer, and then we do some stuff with kids in different places that are in difficult spots.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I know so many people are familiar with the main thing that they probably remember right now, which is Love Does, which is such a great book. And then you're doing some really cool stuff right now with dreaming and helping people dream again. And I'm so excited to talk to you about this because that's really the focus of this show today. And like we were talking about even before we went live, I think a lot of us start out, as children with these big imaginations. And we got big dreams and we want to do big things. And then at some point we stop. And we get practical and we get scared to dream. So talk to us a little bit about this. Why do you think it might be hard as grown, mature, professional, or whatever, adults? Why is it so hard to dream and tap into that inner child that we have?
Well, I think there's a bunch of return addresses for that. Sometimes we don't feel like we're worthy of having the dream. You'd say might have been a past screw up, whether it was a big private one or a big public one. And so you said, let those kind of rob you of your dreams. You defer, you say it's somebody else, it's not for me. Sometimes this can be some limiting belief that you have. And for those listening, a limiting belief would be something that would be kind of like on a loop in your mind. Like if you grew up in a family where your parents split up, you might have a limiting belief that if I actually love somebody, eventually they'll leave, right? And so if your relationships you find going really shallow, there might be something underlying that, which is this idea it might leave. And so it happens with our dreams. They get hijacked sometimes by other people. Sometimes if you're hip to the Enneagram, I'm a 7, the enthusiast. You wouldn't have to know anything about it to figure that one out.
You are such a 7.
Yeah, flaming 7. But if you're like a consensus builder, something that might keep you from getting to your dreams is trying to get validation from everybody else. Like, do you think that's a great idea? Do you think that's a great idea? It's not a bad idea, but it would be understanding, do I want to let my dreams be held hostage by everybody else's opinions? And so 7's one of the hallmarks of us is that we don't like sad things. Like we avoid that like the plague. We also don't wait for permission. And if you're a strong, capable woman and listening to this, don't you wait for permission from anybody, particularly from a dude, to just go be who God made you to be. I mean, all the disciples were saying they never heard of Jesus, and the rooster's going off, and all the women are making it happen. Yeah. I still serve as the consul general for Uganda. You know the crazy thing about that? Uganda fired every male ambassador on earth and replaced them with women.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously, I didn't know that.
Yes, guys have conversations, women get it done.
There you go. I love it. All the women are cheering right now.
Even Love Does. I'll give you an example. We have 10 people who work for me, and they're all women. And because I just like that whole idea, if somebody got this idea of empowerment, like as if the guys have the power, what I've done, just get out of their way and just say, you've got an ambition, go after it. So part of dreaming big is first, realizing for yourself that you've been around the sun a couple times, you've got some beautiful ambitions, you'll know the ones that you've got, and then just go after them. Just quit waiting for permission, quit letting some of these limiting beliefs get in the way, just take the next step. And that's the thing about steps. I'm a grandpa now, which has been my ambition since junior high school. I hadn't even gone out on a date, but I knew that's what I wanted. And so when this grandchild of mine takes their first step at 1 year old, I'm not going to say like, well, I've seen better. No,
Right.
like it's their first step. And there's a great verse. It's Zechariah 4:10. It says that God delights in watching the work begin, to just not despise the small beginnings. And so I hope if you're a woman and you have this idea of starting a business or going after this ambition of yours, that you won't wait for permission, you won't get wrapped around the axle with all the stuff in the past that's getting in the way of your future, and that you'll just take the next step. Don't take all the steps, just the next one.
I love that. Okay, so you brought up the Enneagram, and I think this is a really interesting point. Do you think that there are certain personality styles that it's just easier for them? It seems like from the outside,
totally.
7s, you guys just dream like no big deal, but then you might have a 6 that is a little bit more fear-based going, well, what if it goes wrong? And what if this doesn't work? And what if I fail? So for someone that maybe their natural wiring is not as optimistic and big dreamer, how would you help someone like that that's just like that place feels so scary to them, it feels outside their comfort zone? Like how would you help someone like that it's really hard?
Yeah, the first thing I do is just encourage you like that we need you to be, we need all of your you-iness. Like just go be like awesomely you, because I think all together we make one really well-adjusted person, but it takes all of us just being who God made us to be. Remember that kid's book, Stone Soup, where they just say, put the cauldron in the middle of the village, and they said, we're making stone soup, and everybody just came and threw in what they had, and at the end of the day, turn the last page, everybody's fed. And so I would say for a person like a 1 on the Enneagram, the hallmark's very detailed oriented. So if you feel like I'm like always mired in the details, I would say wonderfully so, but let's also get something done. So if you're spending all of your time preparing, but you're never really ready, then I would say that's not working to your advantage. So I think you can prepare, you can be enthusiastic like me, but we don't need a bunch of Red Bulled out, jacked up people. Well, we want people who know why they're doing what they're doing. And if we have people that know that, we're set.
I love it. Okay, so for someone like you that seems to dream a lot, let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. Dreaming is easy for you. You've got a million ideas a minute. I relate to that. I'm an 8, but I'm an 8-wing 7, and I'm the creative, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and so I have so many ideas. How do you know which dreams are the ones that you should really lean into? They've got a fire, you should act on them, as you said. And which ones are the ones that are just a fleeting idea that are kind of crazy and probably don't need to proceed?
Yeah, so first, if you're listening, take no short explanations. We only have a little bit of time to get at this, but I would say one of my ambitions, one of the things I've dreamt about is to be an astronaut. And so I'm 60. It ain't going to happen unless SpaceX like duct tapes me to the top of one of the rockets. But I would say one of the things, I would say viability. Like, is it actually going to work? There's things. I have another ambition. It's to learn how to fly a hot air balloon. I'm actually taking lessons. I'm 2 lessons away from getting my license. What does that have to do with world peace or some of these other ambitions? Ending a war? Nothing. But it has to do with this, living an engaged life. And so I would say one of the hallmarks of people that they get a lot done, they're just engaged. They want to know where nectar comes from in flowers. They want to know like why bananas are berries and strawberries aren't. They're engaged in their faith. They're engaged in their family. They're engaged in their friends. They're actually situationally aware. They know what's going on around them, but they're not wrapped around the axle thinking their stuff is everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
And so they don't get confused. They know why they're doing what they're doing. They figure out like what's on my plate in front of me. And you can say, what is actually viable? And me being a rocket scientist or a rocket astronaut is not going to be one of those things. But I could get in a balloon.
Right.
Or I could like get to know somebody who actually does spacewalks.
Right.
Actually.
Right. Something
so where do you find them? Go to Houston. That's what I did. I literally wanted to meet somebody who's going to do that. And then you just get to Houston and there they all are.
I love it. Well, what's so fun about this too is because I feel like one of the things you're talking about is when you start to lean into it, you see the ones that you can do. Maybe you can't be an astronaut, but I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of women listening and watching that are thinking there's a lot of things they could do. In your example, the balloon, but they're still missing out on that opportunity because it feels silly or impractical. Like, I'll tell you, Bob, in my life, I have done some weird things. Like, I have taken Latin and ballroom dance lessons when I was like 23, just because I thought it sounded fun. This is when Dancing with the Stars came out.
At the same time, I hope.
Yes. I have gone cage diving with sharks and lived on a farm. And what people always say, they're like, people talk about doing these crazy things, but you actually do them. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? Like, if you want to do them and you can do them, why wouldn't you do them? But so many people don't, Bob. Like, so many people, they either feel like it's silly or it's impractical, or here's a common thing I hear, and I would love to camp here for a second. For some reason, it feels selfish. And I think a lot of moms feel this when they have family and responsibilities and, we've got to do everything the right way. Well, if I have this dream, this thing, whatever this thing is, and it might be a business, it might be something else, taking ballroom dance lessons, whatever it is, there's something about it that feels selfish. Like, I can't lean into this thing because it feels selfish. Can we just talk about that? Like, where do you think that narrative comes from, and why is it not true?
I think sometimes we tend to think in a binary fashion, like zeros and ones. Like, this is either wholly selfish or wholly, altruistic for other people. And I think it could be a combination of many things to just say, what are the beautiful ambitions that God's just placed uniquely in your heart, and you just want to do it because it'd be just a lot of fun. Yeah. And then just say, what are the things that are actually going to last? And I spent a lot of time trying to do things that worked. And I'd say one thing for me is I'm trying to do more things that last. Like, I'm going to be a grandfather of many, many children. I keep sending all my kids T-shirts that say, make people. So that would be an ambition, many grandchildren. And I just want to be a really fun grandpa. And you don't need a hot air balloon to do that, but it doesn't hurt.
Sure.
Like, one of the things that you could say, what about ballroom dancing? That hasn't come up on the radar for me. But if that was important to Sweet Maria, I'd be like, let's tango.
Totally, yeah.
But so sometimes it's just that idea of what's your role in this world. And I think it's many things. It isn't just all of this or all of that. And the beautiful thing that makes each of us, a well-adjusted person is that we have many, many interests. There might be some that have this fleeting kind of a temporary status, and others that will be the things that people speak about you at your eulogy. And I think it's the combination of all things. It isn't all Twizzlers and it isn't all broccoli. It's many of the things to say what feeds your soul, what lights you up, and then what's good. And if faith is an important thing for you, Matthew 25, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was sick, I was strange, I was naked, I was in jail. So there's a go. James talks about widows and orphans. So the things that we do, like, I just try to do those things. I teach a class at San Quentin. Is that awesome?
That's amazing.
It's a great class. I teach these prisoners how to be clear in their message that they give. Because if you've got a roommate and you're in a 6 by 9 foot cell and your roommate weighs 270, that's an awesome time to have a clear message. If you have victims of a crime that you committed, it's a great time. If you have a family you're separated from decades, a parole board. Like, I would say that I would ask this question of your listeners, like, what about you? What's your message? And it doesn't need to be a slogan. It doesn't need to be a tagline. But what are you actually saying to Earth about what's your place in this? And I guess one of the things about you, Christy, and so many others in the blast radius that I've encountered is you're just saying it's possible. Yeah. And if you actually believe this isn't this cosmic download, it's possible. Look at your life.
Yeah.
Here you are. And to say, what might be possible with this life I've got? And you say, like, I don't know, what have I got? And you say, like, well, an imagination or not. But if you got a friend, you go, like, if they have an imagination, if you don't have a friend with an imagination, get one.
Yeah.
Buy him Starbucks. So call me up. Like, to say one of the things that I want to be available. That was as easy as just putting my cell phone number in the back of 2 million books.
That small detail.
There's other ways to be available. You could get a Walkie Talkie today at Radio Shack, hang it from a tree in the center of your town, and then just carry the other end around. And when somebody calls, just answer it. I know it sounds absurd. What's the benefit of that? It's just like carving this new little groove in your brain, and then you want to go Grand Canyon on it. You want to create a new habit, this new way that you see yourself. I'm the person that's available. And so when somebody calls me, I don't see that as an interruption to the day. I see that as part of my day. And my friends don't think it's rude. They think it's actually beautiful because they don't know who's going to call.
That's right.
And this whole idea of being available. I got a call yesterday from a guy, and he said, I was going to walk down the aisle with my fiance and get married, and I asked you 5.5 years ago if you'd pray for us before we went down. And he said, do you remember doing that? And actually I didn't. And I told him, and he said, well, no matter, my wife is in the hospital right now. And I'm like, oh, heavens, like what happened? He said, she actually is in the hospital because a 21-year-old girl in our church that she doesn't even know has liver cancer. She's giving her half her liver today.
Wow.
And I just wanted you to know. I'm like, it just made me so glad to be available for that call.
That's right.
And the call from somebody to say, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? Like that you could decide, and it's not a tagline, it's a life approach.
Right.
And what I've observed is no matter what number you are, what personality type, if you decide I'm going to be available within the context of how I process the world, awesome things will happen. If you're a small businesswoman, just be available. Instead of having a sign that says we're open, just say we're available. Yeah. And that a small change, it's that quarter of a little twist that gives you a different perspective on who you are and how you fit into this thing.
I love this, and so much of what you're talking about, like let's use the Walkie Talkie example, which is crazy, Bob. Like let's just like hanging a Walkie Talkie from a tree is crazy. I love this. Here's what you have to do to be able to do something like that, and be able to do a lot of what we're talking about, to dream big, to be available, all these things. You have to at some point let go of the obsession that I think a lot of people have about what other people think of me. What would someone think of me if I hang a walkie-talkie from a tree? What would someone think of me if I took astronaut classes, hot air balloon classes, ballroom dance lessons, went cage diving with sharks, fill in the blank, start a business? I can't tell you how many people don't act on their dreams because they are just worried about what other people think. You seem to have just an immunity to this. So teach us, Bob, how do we get over this?
All you're doing is really just confirming all their suspicions.
No.
They think you're nuts. Be like, I'm certain they're nuts. I haven't gone cage diving with a bunch of sharks, but I've been around a couple lawyers. and one of the things I'm trying to do is take kind of a less aggressive approach towards the people I'm around. I'll give you an example. Like I'm licensed to practice law in like 5 or 6 states, evidently. And but while I'm capable of being a lawyer, I felt like what I'm made to do is start schools. It doesn't mean all the years as a trial lawyer were for naught, but they were a preparation to do what I'm doing now. And so think of your circumstance, all the things that prepared you. Relationships that went great, relationships that got wonky. We see like a hole that we dug, and God sees a foundation he's building. And to see these things as not the reasons you can't do it, but actually the reasons that you actually have enough life experience to approach these. And so you start things. We've just started a bunch of schools in Afghanistan, schools for little girls. The Taliban won't learn how to read and write. And I'm like, that's just lame to deny an entire generation of women. I'm not trying to turn them into Christians. I just want them to be able to choose. Right. If they have enough information to decide what their life was going to be like, that would be a beautiful thing. And so you just start. You buy the ticket, but here's the deal. Don't go across the ocean, go across the street. Yeah. You won't find anything in the scriptures about going across oceans. Paul got in a shipwreck and another guy got swallowed by a whale. So don't worry about the whole ocean thing. But to say what's available right here in my community, who's a friend that I've kind of lost touch with, I can make one phone call, no agenda other than I'd like to find out the 3 things that inspire you. Yeah. What is it that really lights you up? What is it that you're dreaming about? And then ask yourself those questions. Don't go for the 3rd question, or the first question, like what's your name? Right. And the second question, what do you do for a living? But the 3rd question, like what are you dreaming about? And if they had that with you, you'd say a number of things. I mean, like I'm dreaming of some things for my family. I'm thinking about things for some people in some other countries. And so if we could be the ones that just think at a number of different levels what we're dreaming about, those will guide the conversations that we're having.
I love it because it's so interesting how our experience can so easily mirror stories in the Bible that we can point to, that we can read and see models and examples of this in Scripture. But for some reason, our situation feels different. Like, it's so funny how, God will ask me to do something that feels crazy. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. This feels, again, impractical. I don't know. You look at examples like Noah, like people thought he was insane. You know what I mean? He's building an ark. There's no rain. Like you look at example after example in Scripture where God calls someone to do something that seems crazy. And just like you said, it's preparation. There's all these different examples of preparation when we have to trust in that. And then, of course, we see how it makes sense in hindsight. But at the time, you're just walking on faith. You're walking on water. You're building an ark. You're whatever the thing is. And I think that's what dreaming feels like. It feels scary and risky and a little crazy at the time. But it's amazing how God will come through in the end if we can walk through that in faith.
Yeah, there's something too about realizing that, he picks like these fishermen that never even get the nets on the right side of the boat.
They don't even get it right.
Like 50-50 chance. And they didn't see that it's disqualifying themselves, that they messed up yet again. They thought they just did what he said to do. I love that. I've been studying these miracles that Jesus did, not just like, wedding feast of Cana stuff, but to say what was going on around that particular miracle. And that first miracle, Mary said to the maitre d' there, do whatever he tells you to do. I would say that'd be great. If faith is important to you, I'd say do whatever God tells you to do. If you want to know what he tells you to do, Matthew 25, hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, people in jail. It's hard to find naked people, but it's easy to find people in jail. And so find the people that are available. And literally just drive around town with some burgers. You have like Whataburger, don't you? Is that down in Texas? I don't know. But like feed people. That's what Chick-fil-A does. Just give people what they need. Is there something I can do to be helpful? All these calls that I get, that's the question I ask. I say, how can I be helpful to you? And it's not like they're ordering a Coke and fries. I just say, is there something that I have that I could use to help you along the way? I think we have a mutual friend in Al Andrews in Nashville, and he's got this place called Porter's Call. I thought a porter was like a Sherpa that carried my latte machine up Everest. But he explained to me very patiently that a porter in the Benedictine tradition is somebody who goes down to the gate every morning and greets people and says, how can I help you on your way? Christy, I think this is why you're doing the podcast. You want to say, how can I help you on your way with your small businesses? How can I help you along your way with your marriages and your relationships? I think that's when it gets really good. So if we approach that we're available to people to say, is there something I can do, something I got that'll help you along the way? Then you know why you're doing what you're doing. And then whether it works or not, you knew why you were doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I've had all kinds of things crater, not work at all, but I knew why I was doing it. And even trying to date Maria, I knew why I was doing it. It just wasn't working.
I love it. Well, it's so interesting. I was just talking about this earlier, but even when you look at Scripture, I think one of the things that we struggle with is owning our dreams. We just pretend like we don't have any, as if that's the right thing to do, the holy thing to do. Oh, I don't have any aspirations. I don't have any dreams. I'm fine with this. And one of the examples I was giving earlier is if you look at Scripture, when someone came to Jesus, he would always ask them, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want? What are you dreaming about? And
yeah, and it was usually blind guys that did the asking.
He knows. He is God. He knows your thoughts. He knows it. But there's something so important about that question where he's saying, will you own it? Will you trust me with that thing that you want? But you first have to acknowledge that you want it. And I think a lot of women have, and not just women, this is men too, but we've got women listeners and women coming to Business Boutique. They have somehow pushed those dreams aside for so long. They have buried them in the back of their mind to collect dust for whatever reason, all those reasons we covered at the beginning. And now they're trying to explore what would it look like to resurrect those dreams or dream new dreams. And God's saying, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? And that question can be intimidating, but it's also exciting because it could open up whole new doors like you and I are talking about.
I think I'd underline and italicize the you. What do you want? Because it's easy to start channeling parents, old boyfriends, teachers, other people, but to say not what they wanted or what they thought the answer should be for you, but what do you actually want? And it takes a dollop of introspection, a little bit of time to just chill out and not be stressed out. And if you're stressed out, get a puppy. But literally just chill out. You'd be so busy.
I know, seriously,
up on
that would
be
just
stressed out.
add to it.
Yes. So, but that whole idea to just chill out a little bit and then just say, what do I actually really want? You'd say, well, then what category? So, well, then let's list them. What do you want in your marriage? What do you want in the relationships that are most important to you? What do you want to be some of your legacy? What's going to outlast you? What do you want in terms of the fears? What do you want about reconciling things? And how do you feel? I wear a mood ring.
That is
Isn't that awesome? I've been wearing this thing for like 5 years. It changes color all the time. And I got it for $2 on Evie. I'm telling you, get a mood ring. And, and ladies, if you're just dating a guy, you're not married and you've got somebody, if you actually are married and you're dating a guy, that's a different conversation. But like, if you have somebody, give them a mood ring and to just say like, I want to talk about your feelings too. And if he says, I'm actually not into feelings, say like, awesome, I'm not into you. Send him down the road. Because one of the things is to surround yourself with people that are actually self-aware and they're asking these questions of themselves so that it feels like feels normative. It doesn't feel weird to say, what do you want? That is very normative to ask those questions. And if you don't have somebody that's speaking dreams around you constantly, I would find a couple additional friends. You don't have to replace the ones you've got, just add to them and find some people that are looking at the horizon and say, I wonder what's over there. And they show up to see if there's a green flash. I've never seen one yet, but I gotta believe it's there. I'm gonna keep looking.
I was just talking to one of my good friends yesterday, and she was telling me about this idea she has for a business. We've been best friends for years, and she's never had an interest in having a business or anything, so this is a whole new conversation. And she said, here's what I'm thinking. Do you think this will work? And so on. And so, of course, I just sent her a video response back of, here's why I think this is so great, and you'd be so great, and all these things. And she said, well, I asked my friend, this other friend here, and she's in Knoxville, and she said, I asked this friend, and she told me, it definitely wouldn't work, and like no one would buy from it. I said, who is this friend? You need to defriend her. Like this is not a friend. But I love that advice to surround yourself with people that speak life over you, that will, help to rally around your dreams and breathe life into those dreams, even when you're not believing in the dream, that they can carry you a little bit through that, because we all need that. And Bob, I can tell you, you are certainly that for millions of people, which we are all so grateful for. I'm a recipient, one of the many. But I would love it, before we wrap up, if you would tell us where people can connect with you, and also maybe a little bit about what you're excited about speaking at Business Boutique. We're so thrilled. I've heard you speak at Catalyst and many times, so I'm so thrilled you're going to be there. The ladies are going to just love it. So tell us a little bit about what you're excited about and where people can connect with you, or call you, follow you, all the things, see what you're up to with the hot air balloon and the grandkids.
Yeah, if you just Google Bob Goff, what's his phone number?
It's going to come up. Give him a call.
That's awesome. Yeah, but one of the things I've been thinking about is this impact that we can leave behind by not only expressing our dreams, ambitions, but to do the deep work that we need to do. As a 7, if you would follow the Enneagram, like going deep and like dealing with the sadness or some of the setbacks in our life, that actually is not what we tend towards. We want to avoid that and stick with happy and balloons and all that. And so I would say, for me, I'm just trying to deal with that. I'm not trying to camp out there, but I would just go like, hey, I want to deal with some of those things so I can understand, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is this a limiting belief? Is this a little insecure Bobby Goff? What Bobby Goff realized when he was super young is, if I could just make people laugh and be happy, I wouldn't have to deal with my own insecurity, because I would be getting the feedback from them, because they'd be smiling that I was okay. I wasn't looking for validation. That's like applause. Join the circus if you want that. But to just say I was looking for like the grins, because then it would make me feel like they weren't watching me anymore and everybody was okay. And so if you can just understand for yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm telling you, it wasn't my thought, but so many friends. Miles Adcox had it on site, that idea that you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself. You want to go far in your business, go on this inner journey to understand, what is it that's driving this? Is it to get some validation from somebody else to say I'm a success? Or do you actually believe that you're here on earth and it's a success? It's like a touchdown or a goal, or I'm not a sports guy, but it's what you won.
Right.
Here you are. So now what are you going to do next? And I just believe that heaven is leaning over the rails saying, we want you to grow into the woman that God made you to be. fully into that with all the picadillos and foibles and failures and all that. But to say this idea of a new creation, like who is it that you're going to be next? I turned 60 a couple weeks ago. I bought a dirt bike and I've been learning how to jump it. So far, I've gone 30 feet, but here's the deal. The motorcycle only went 20.
Bob, how are you
Right
sitting
over
there right
handlebars.
now?
It's awesome. But here's the deal. I just got back on. And that's going to happen. It's a relationship. It's a business venture. It's a whatever it was that you jumped big and you went right over the handlebars. And I've just learned a little bit more. I know like when to hit the gas and when to hit the brake. And so sometimes we think of this idea of achievement as all gas, no brake. And I would say, I'd give that a quarter of a twist and say, what if we have a little bit of both? And I think to have enough break that you can have some time at Starbucks, make somebody else pay, and to say, can you tell me about 3 things that you're hoping for me? Because I'm just feeling a little bit hopeless right now. Pause to say, am I comparing myself to everybody else? Comparison's a punk. I would make you shout that into the screen right now. It's steal your lunch money. Just keep your eyes on your own paper. And to say, who is it that I'm becoming? I'm a new creation. Tell me about that woman I'm turning into. Then we love that.
I love that visual you just gave us. Not of you flying over the handlebars, but the one before, right before that, where you said the idea of heaven leaning over the rails, saying, "What are they going to do? What are they going to do next?" Just the anticipation that heaven is for you, not against you, and what is coming down the pike. I love it. Well, Bob, you are just a light in this world. You are such a joy and just so much fun. So I know everyone is so excited to have you at the event. I'm thrilled, and I know people are just going to be so inspired by this content and by this lesson on dreaming. There's something really special, and you are quite an expert. So thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to be here and teach us today.
Thanks a million. And I'll tell you, Christy, I'm going to learn, not to teach. And I just being around the blast radius of people that are there, women who have beautiful ambitions for their lives, I think it's going to be a treat. I'm knowing going to learn a lot. Run home to Sweet Maria, tell her all about it, tell her what color my moon.
You got to tell Sweet Maria there's some nail polish. I don't have my nails done right now, Bob. You can't see them, but there's nail polish that is mood nail polish, and it changes color with your. I swear, she'll love it. She'll love it. So you got to let her know to try that out. Anyway, Bob, you're the best. Thanks for being here.
Bye. So long.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to hear more from Bob Goff and all of our amazing speakers, you don't want to miss our Business Boutique Conference, October 24th through the 26th here in Nashville. You can find out more information and get your tickets by clicking the link below.